Well, hey friends, welcome to Ep.6 Goodness, and thanks for joining us today on an episode of
Elephant in the Room.
There we go.
Yeah, so definitely not Cher's influence, but yeah, it's great to be back chatting. It's been a little while, been MIA, but it's good to hit back to the couch and just have some good chats because, we love that. I got the gift of the gab, I can keep going.
Yeah. You do. I love listening, so I'll listen to you.
Yeah, and this morning we just thought, why not just talk about friendship, It's something, I think over the summer holidays, new friendships arise, friendships break up. I don't know, I shouldn't say that, but, friendships are tricky stuff, And so it's something that it's really important to us, close to our hearts. I mean, we've been friends for how long?
Oh, many, many years. I think we've been friends for about 17 years, if my maths is correct.
That's wild. That's older than all your youth.
Yeah, definitely. And even as a symbol of our friendship, we had matching
I know.
socks.
Okay, guys, I just want to say from the start, this wasn't actually planned. I put them on first this morning. I came in with them, and then Katie saw it, and she's like, they're in my car. Should I put them on?
Except I've got odd socks, so we're matching but not matching. So, shows a little bit of.
But no, it does. It shows the friendship goes deep.
Yeah.
Shout out to Duncan Tommy for those socks too. That was
best socks.
That was the best birthday gift. We really appreciate you and all you do.
100%. Well, socks aside, shall we get into our chat today? Well, we're already into it, but one of the things that we like to do when we're chatting is kind of look at how our faith interacts with the world and with culture. And so I guess as a starting point, first question would be, how does the world look at friendship?
Totally. And I think it's not always that different to how the Bible views friendship, because ultimately I think when we look around us, friendships are just maybe two people or multiple friend groups of having a shared experience together that build and encourage each other or spend quality time together. And that's probably quite the general way of looking at friendship. But I guess when you want to look at it a bit deeper, when I look at the Bible, I think friendship has a deeper spiritual element to it where there's a lot of emphasis, particularly in Proverbs, about the kind of people you keep close to you. As people that aren't just meant to encourage you lightly or spur you on to do whatever you want, but to sharpen you into the person that you are to become. And I think sometimes that's the difference between it.
Totally. Yeah. I guess a friendship in the context of faith is they're a spiritual companion, right?
Yeah.
They're there to not to do and walk alongside each other through life, but also to be able to lead you into the fullness of life that Jesus has for you.
Yeah.
And I think in contrast, sometimes the world or the culture can make friendship a little bit more superficial, in the sense that friendship is all about, it can be a little bit more idle or about gossiping or just, it's a very surface level chat. Maybe friendship doesn't go as deep as God intended.
Totally. I reckon a lot of that's probably based on our insecurities as people, where we make friends or we keep friends because we're afraid of being lonely, rather than sometimes even having a bigger purpose. And I'm very guilty of that, I don't know, you think about the classic walk around school at the lunchtime and your best mates in a meeting or something, you're oh man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So you go and befriend these people and different people you sit down, you chat with, and then after that you never chat to them again. It was just a friends for a means to fill a gap. And I don't know, I feel sometimes maybe it's just the winners out there, the people out there that just like to win people over. I want to win you as a friend because I like how you make me feel in that moment where I feel I'm seen. But the reality is you don't actually know me, and I don't necessarily have the desire in my heart to be real with you and to let you grow me or shape me as a person. But
Wow.
Yeah.
There's some great, like, personality insights there.
Yeah.
I love that.
You were the friend in the meeting, you know?
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess then it's like, why is friendship important to us as well? Like, why is your friendship with me important, Katie?
You just want some affirmation.
Whereas affirmation is my number one love language.
Yeah.
So, like, really just keep them coming, you know?
Yeah.
Keep it coming.
Okay, well, I'll give it to you. So, friendship, well, like, its importance, it's massive. It's life-giving. And in terms of, like, my friendship with you, I would say that, you know,
it's because we wear matching socks.
Yeah, totally. It's all about the matching socks. We look cool. But no, it goes so deep. Like, the way that you have encouraged me in all areas of life has just been, like, phenomenal and so impactful. Like, one of my favorite things is when we get to pray together. We get to, like, I don't know, be able to seek out God and to be able to speak words of life over each other. And even just, like, thinking that this past week, we had a call, and I remember I was feeling, like, a little bit down that evening. I don't know, the day was maybe not the best day. But you just came out with all these, like, great words of encouragement. My spirit felt so uplifted. And that is just a special gift or an aspect of our friendship that I value and I cherish. Like, if it wasn't for you, I would maybe be a lot more down on the dumps. So thank you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think for me, like, our friendship in particular, it's just been something that's just sharpened me over the years. Like, I actually, like, love thinking about it this week. Like, I was like, oh, like, why is my friendship with Katie so great? And I've, like, looked over the years from, like, way back when we were, like, 5 years old, and the nature in which it's grown has been really awesome. Yeah. I think it's just been such an encouragement knowing that where your friendship starts with someone, like, if you're both committed and dedicated to, like, wanting God's best in your worlds and the best in your friends' worlds, like, you will grow together in what was, like, you know, just hanging out on the playground as, like, 7-year-olds playing tag and
kicking
you
the
know,
football around at lunchtime. That's all we did.
Oh my goodness, like, we weren't even necessarily praying for each other. Like, we didn't have that kind of need. We weren't like, opening our hearts up, like, when something went down. You know, I think that was something I grew with over time. But I think just this friendship's been so important because we've both been chasing the same things. And, like, as we've matured in our faith, we're realising, like, wow, you're still next to me this whole time. Like, just sharpening each other. I guess that desire, I guess, together to, like, see God's purposes. And I think that for me has been, like, such a blessing. And something you don't want to take for granted because, like, friendship is hard and not many people have that. But then at the same time, you may not have that now, but it doesn't mean that you can't have that in the future. And I know even for me in the last few years, like, moving churches and, like, moving communities has literally, like, almost at times felt like separated me from all my closest friends. And then feeling like I'm in that place of, like, look, I don't really have anyone, like, right in front of me, and I know that's important, and I can't just rely on a phone call from like, you know, 2 hours away. But then, you know, like, you get to remember, like, how great this friendship was and know that, you know, God can do that with other people in your world too. And I guess not to, like, lose hope because your friendship doesn't look like someone else's.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think that's the key thing, is that friendship is an evolution. So I think we need to remember, like, not to be discouraged if it feels like, you know, maybe not as deep or as fruitful as life-giving as we may hope it to be. But, like, the key foundation is loyalty, being able to be consistent and constant over time. But, I guess that kind of raises the question, how do you keep, like, a friendship going?
Yeah. It's hard, but it's simple, I think, keeping a friendship going. Like, it just means doing the basics well and being quick to, like, admit the faults when they arise. I think, like, looking at our friendship, I think the things that have really kept it going, like, well over the years and, you know, still to this day is, I think, the ability to just, like, let things go. I know that can be such, like, a a crippler in friendships and like friend groups. But I think for the two of us, I mean, we're both pretty low-key people as well, so that helps. But I think the intentionality of deciding to like give each other the benefit of the doubt when things don't work out, you know, when I offend Caitlin or like steal her lunchbox at school and like run around with it until she's literally like nearly crying, and then I realized I'd never done that before. I didn't even think it was possible to make you upset. Like, I've never seen Caitlin upset. It was probably year 10, and I like thought it was so funny. And just running around with this lunchbox, she's like chasing me to this point where I'm like, I think she's gonna cry. And that's when I knew I had to apologize. And she had to forgive me. And you did. You did forgive me. Yeah. That was our first test.
Yeah. We're still here today. So thanks for bringing that up. I had totally forgotten about that.
Oh, you know, things you remember.
Yeah. So what was the question again? I'm just like too caught up.
How are we keeping our friendship going? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, well, I think just going off that note, it's like, I guess a good reminder, like not to sweat the small stuff. And to not hold on to grudges, right? I think a lot of people let things stew, and over time that builds up, that festers, and then can end up kind of exploding, or people just like distance themselves even because they maybe don't even have that moment of communication, and people don't know what's actually going on, what's the blockage between us. So just holding things lightly, being open, being honest with each other.
Honesty's so key, you know, like, because you want to be in any good friendship, you want it to be with someone who really knows you, and you feel like you can, like, if you speak so honestly to them, they won't reject you in that moment of vulnerability too, right? So having a friendship that, you know, you feel like you can be completely you, and like, even if you're wrong, they're going to be willing to take on board like what you're saying and like walk with you through that process. I think that provides so much longevity because, you know, like, it's a safe space for the two of you to grow and grow in together. I think proximity falls into that as well. Like, you can't have a friendship that lasts forever if you don't pursue it like regularly, and I feel like that's something that we've probably had to work on quite a bit in like the last few years, where, you know, we're not at uni together anymore, or at school where you had easy proximity because you were always literally seeing each other every day. But now living on like two very different sides to Auckland, we're not even really different cities, so we can't complain too much, but there is distance, which requires intentionality to like actually keep the relationship going. And I feel like, you really have to make that decision, that commitment to be like, all right, like, how are we going to keep this going, and how do we like stick to it? Whether that's a phone call or meeting up once a week or every 2 weeks, and like being really intentional in those moments you have. And I think once you've kind of got that rhythm and that consistency going, you like crave it. You yearn for that moment of catching up and connection. And that's the beauty of friendship. It's just so life-giving in that sense that, you know, you just find your people and can be able to connect, have fun, and cheer each other on. Yeah, I love that. Kind of reminds me of, like, David and Jonathan, you know, like, in the Old Testament, like, two best friends that, like, loved each other, like, dearer than their families. But they didn't actually see each other all that much.
Is that
during like scripture, like, I mean, David was hiding for half the time, you know, and hiding from Jono's dad too, which makes it even like more complicated, really, when you look at it. But like, even though they didn't have the physical distance, like proximity to each other, like, there was still such like a real heart depth connection from like the commitment they had to like I guess love each other and fight for each other. Whether it was easy or not. So,
Yeah, and this is going off a little bit of a, like, side route. But, like, I think that's a really good point, in that the Bible is a great book to open up to look at friendships. Like, you can be encouraged by seeing the examples of friendship.
Yeah.
But also, we were like just talking beforehand that actually ultimate friendship is found in God. Yeah. And like Jesus says in John 15, I think, that I have no longer called you slaves, but I've called you my friends. Yeah. And so I think that's also first and foremost is realizing that when we're cultivating and developing that friendship with God, that, you know, he is the ultimate friend. We can learn from his example, his selfless love and care for us, in order to impart that to people we're doing life with.
I love that. And even just like reading through the New Testament, you just have to look at the Gospels and how did Jesus treat his 12 disciples, you know? Like, he had very intimate relationships with them all. Like, he ate dinner with them. He washed their feet. He was their ultimate servant. And I guess that, like, looking at that too is, like, ways to see friendship. I mean, Kate, you can wash my feet after this if you really like, but...
I'll take your socks off, but I don't feel like washing your feet.
Oh, maybe that's the end of our friendship, to be honest. You're not really reflecting Jesus to me right now.
That's terrible. Nah, do you have a shower?
I guess that's kind of like where we can lead from here is
let's
why where do you struggle to be a good friend, Caitlin, other than feet washing?
I'll work on that. No, probably like my greatest struggle is kind of dealing with this tension within me is that, like, by nature I'm an introvert. I like or appreciate like just time by myself to be able to recharge my batteries. But often I feel like that can be, I can maybe come at friendship as a bit more from like a selfish perspective of not fully giving myself, because sometimes I, you know, want to be by myself. Does that make sense?
All I'm hearing is that half the time Caitlin doesn't actually want to be with me.
That is not true.
Like, when I'm like, hey, do you want to hang out? Even if you say yes, there's this thought in the back of my head where it's like, I would much rather be at Shakespeare Park right now reading John Mark Comer on a hill with my kombucha and...
No.
Broccoli, I don't know, something.
You're really diving deep there, but no, that is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that sometimes, like, you've got to like get out of yourself. Like, it's easy to be like just stuck within myself, but actually, no, it's good to be around people to embrace them. But I don't even know what I'm saying.
All right, we get it. Caitlin really struggles with being, I guess, present in her friendship. No, that's not it. It's more like sometimes realizing like what you get from being like there in friendships is like sometimes even more than what you'd get by yourself. But sometimes we have the natural tendency to want to just go by ourselves. And I feel like partly for me it's similar, but it's like outworked differently, where like I'm an extrovert, so naturally I don't want to be by myself, but I want to be with people, but I don't necessarily want to be real all the time. And which is quite funny because people tend to say, Anna, you're quite a real person, like you're quite straight up, but it's so easy to be straight up about something you don't have that doesn't feel vulnerable. And I'm like, I'm a pretty open book, but there are parts to me that like it hurts if I go there, so I'd rather not. And I feel like, I don't know, looking over the years, vulnerability and good friendships, like you don't need to be vulnerable to everyone, but with those like close spiritual friends, it's so important in order for you to actually, like, if there's an issue in your life, to like be able to name it, share it. It takes like this pressure off. It's like the beauty of confession, I think. It really like sets you free and allows the Holy Spirit to work through you by giving you accountability for someone else. And so I think for me, that's always been something I've found hard, naturally, because I like the idea of people thinking I'm good all the time, you know, and that I've always got it going, like, fine, you know, we're just smiling, living our best life. But I think for me, like, realising over the last few years, that's something I have to be so intentional with. And I don't always get it right. Sometimes I'll leave it for a while until, like, Caitlin can read the room and be like, she's really off today and she hasn't said anything. and then like having to have those honest conversations. But I guess that's where also like a great friend comes into play. Someone that can actually like, that knows you well enough that they can actually see through the masks you wear and I guess the things that go on.
Yeah. And I think that's been a journey we've been on together, is this path of vulnerability and being open about things, whether it be like even the sin in our own lives or just like having maybe conversations that we didn't have when we were younger. I think we shied away from a lot of stuff because we were just like maybe a bit more tomboyish and
like ooh, feelings.
Feelings. It was like
gross, let's just play netball.
But no, there's definitely been a lot of fruit from being able to open up and talk through things.
But like also opening up to talk about it with the heart and the intentionality to like encourage each other too. I don't think we're much of like I feel like there's importance to have like a, you know, a rant, get it out of your chest, but without it having like, I guess, the hope for some input of some kind, like whether that's, doesn't even have to be like advice, it could just be prayer, you know, like confiding in each other and confessing with each other in order that God can intervene in the situation and like allowing him to work through us being vulnerable. I feel like that's the beauty.
Yeah, and I think that's the main struggle within like our culture, is that often being able to talk to a friend about something, it's done from more this heart posture of gossip and of wanting to like fester off each other. Oh, like, you know, like they say what you want to hear about a particular situation, and it just, you end up like festering this this thing, and then, you know, no one actually ends up walking away feeling better. It's just, you know, you're kind of spurring each other on with a bit more like anger or like hatred or whatever it is. So I think that's kind of the countercultural concept of friendship, is actually, you know, you can bring hard things to each other or that you may be dealing with, but you're actually encouraging each other and trying to see Jesus in that.
No, I love that. That's awesome. That's so cool. I have a question. Well, like, I guess, because it's so important to have spiritual friends, and that obviously is someone that's following the Lord, but that kind of begs the question of like, what do I do about the friends that I have that aren't Christian? Or is it even like wise to have good friends if they aren't? Like, how do we navigate that as someone that wants to have great friendships and live a life that gives God honor?
Well, I think the importance of like having a spiritual friend is that you've got someone to be able to cheer you on and call you out your potential in the life that Jesus has for you. But I think it's so important and life-giving and beautiful to have friends of all different walks of life, of all different beliefs. There is such richness and diversity in that sense, but also like as people of faith, I think that's where we can be the greatest witness to people, is through relationship, through friendship, is being able to, you know, love as Jesus would, and be able to plant those seeds of his hope and his light as well.
And as it says, you know, Jesus was the friend of sinners, and so he actually took upon himself to befriend those who were the lowest of the low, you know, the prostitutes, the tax collectors, even the Pharisees. If they wanted to have a conversation, he was willing for that. And what I love about it, though, is the way he treats them. It's with so much love. It's so authentic. Like, he's not faking it, but the relationship he had with them was different. The relationship he had with his 12 and even his close 3, you know. And it just shows that you can be friends with like a whole lot of people from different worldviews and experiences. It's just the friendship will look different, but it should all remain authentic. You know, like, it's not a two-face and then a real. It's just different levels of vulnerability in order, because some you will be purely sowing into, or others you'll be able to reap from as well. So,
Totally.
Well,
final question, and that is for like someone who may be watching this and feeling like they're in a bit of like a difficult space with friends. Maybe they don't have any, or maybe they just don't feel like their friendships are really like spurring them on in the right direction. What encouragement would you give to someone who is like struggling with finding their spiritual friends?
Yeah. Man, and that's such a hard one. I just want to like give it, like, I guess take a moment to acknowledge those that like you may be finding yourself in a space where you feel very friendless or friend poor. But I just want to encourage you that God does have good friends for you, and that while the journey to it will be hard, anything hard is worth it as well, you know, like good things come at a cost. And so just to encourage you that like it might be tricky, but it's so life-giving when you commit yourself to it. I know for me a few years ago when I was trying to find spiritual friends at my church that I'm at now, I think it was kind of like a two-pronged element to it. Like one, I just kept following the Lord, I kept serving, I kept doing what I was called to do. And as I did, I naturally found myself surrounded by like-minded people. And that was great because it provided a whole lot of room of great friends that I knew could invest into me. But then there was the second element where it's like God will surround you with good people when you are following his way, but then he also gives you the will to actually pursue them. And I think for me that was the hard part. Like it was easy to have them around me, but like I had to choose to pursue them, which meant sometimes asking for a one-on-one hangout, which for me was like, oh my gosh, this is so awkward, you know, I feel so vulnerable, but it's worth it. And I guess just like pursuing that friendship, like actually seeking it to go deeper, which requires like a vulnerable conversation where you're like, wow, I've never shared that with this person before, but they've been receptive and I know they love it, follow the Lord, they're someone I want to invest into me, really. So you're kind of just looking for those people.
Yeah, totally. And I think what I've learned as well is that it can take time to find those spiritual friends, but if you like pray to God, he is faithful to provide. And I've found myself like encountering new friends just like totally out of the blue, spontaneously, and that's totally been like a reflection of God's provision. However, also I just had a mind blank.
It was a really great thought, though. I know, it was awesome.
I got it. This should be cut out, but it's not. I was going to say that, like, however, also, like, God has provided people just for certain seasons as well. So, true. Like, you're a lifelong seasoner, but, like, I've had people who have, like, come in for maybe a year or, like, half a year, and they've kind of meted, like, my friendship needs for that point in time.
Yeah, great.
So, God can provide in all sorts of fun ways.
Totally. And every friendship has its place, you know, like, God blesses that seasonal friendship. And it's not just because someone's moved on, maybe they've moved city, maybe they've just moved in like where they're going in life. They still might be following the Lord, but like there's nothing wrong with a friendship being seasonal. I think sometimes we can feel like a lot of guilt of like, oh man, like did I let that go? Did I let it fall? But I think God, he works through seasons. He works through multiple people to one, you know, and I think you just got to take it as a joy in that moment, in that season,
totally,
and then trust that he will bring the next ones along, and he will also bring those lifelong friends too. I feel like those are the ones that, you know, you got to fight for, but you can get them.
Yeah, totally. So I think in short, like in terms of finding good spiritual friends, like it's important to put yourself out there in different places in like your church community, get involved, like go along to that social event or that prayer gathering, whatever it is. You never know how God might surprise you with a friend there, but also know that friendship does take time. It's an evolution, so give yourself grace and be patient in the process, but as well, like trust God. He is faithful to provide in his good perfect timing.
And pray about it, you know, like he asks us to bring our requests to him, and don't be anxious about anything, and that he cares for you. He wants good things for his children, and he wants his children nurtured in order that they can do good things for the kingdom. So like the Lord like values those prayers, you know, because they ultimately are prayers that are asking for you, for help for you to live out what he has planned for you. So I think he really honors that, and is faithful to promise.
Yeah. Amen. He's a good gift giver.
Yeah.
Well, friends,
it's a good chat.
I think that's all that we have to say on friendship for now.
Yeah.
But hopefully there's been something here that's maybe like encouraged you with whatever stage you're at in your friendship.
Yeah. But no,
and if not, just like go and buy yourself some like matching socks, and then your friendship dreams will
when you
true.
find that friend that you really want to befriend, you can give them the other pair, and you'll be like, this is lifelong now.
I like that.
Yeah. But now, awesome, great chatting with you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you again some other time.
See ya.